I'd like to begin, if it's all right, by thanking Andrew and Mika for the friendship they've extended to the British government over the past few years. You're incredible champions and advocates of open government, so it's a real privilege to be here today. I'm here from the UK, home of the Twitter super injunction, and I work for the Cameron government. I work for Prime Minister David Cameron, who came to office just over 12 months ago. And since he came to office, we've been trying to do something that I think is genuinely very interesting. We've attempted to put technology and innovation at the heart of everything we do. On economic growth, for example, we have attempted to really support insurgent innovation and new technologies, overhauling our intellectual property laws, creating new fair use exemptions to better support online innovation, creating an entrepreneur visa to make it easier for the next generation of tech entrepreneurs to move to the UK. And we've also introduced new generous tax incentives for early stage investment to support early stage and angel investment. It helps with all these changes that we have a finance minister who's such a tech geek, he used to cycle to work wearing a Mozilla t-shirt. When we think about technology, of course, we don't just think about the economy, we think about society too. And Prime Minister Cameron has set out a vision that some of you may have heard about. He talks about the big society. He talks about a society where communities are stronger, where people have more power and control over their lives, so they can work together to address some of the problems that they face. And open data and technology is really central to this mission of creating a big society. And we're using technology in three ways, and that's really what I want to very quickly talk about today. Using technology to support social innovation, government innovation, and community innovation. On social innovation, the first thing I'd like to cover. Just after we were elected last May, we did something that a lot of political experts and commentators thought was a little bit mad. We made a very public and very high-profile commitment to become the most open and transparent government in the world. I mean, that's what they call creating a rod for your own back. But we did it because we understood that incredible social innovation would be unleashed as we released data and allowed it to be reused and mashed up in unpredictable ways. And so over the last 12 months, that's exactly what we've done. We've opened the doors of government and tried to let as much data as possible out. We've published every item of government spending over £25,000, every item of international development spending over £500, every item of local government spending over £500, every government contract in full, every break clause, performance clause, indicator, etc. Incidents of crime broken down on a street-by-street basis for the entire country, and so on. None of this has been easy, as you might expect. When I first wrote the PM's transparency plan back last May, I was told by the bureaucracy that we'd only be allowed to release data sets if the data quality could be absolutely assured. Why? Well, because they thought it would embarrass the government if people knew how poor much of the data was. We overruled that advice. So 12 months on, these data sets and over 6,000 others now are sparking a huge amount of social innovation in the UK. Apps like Schooloscope have been created, showing people exactly where their local school, how well their local school is performing. Websites like Where Does My Money Go have been built, visualizing government spending in an easy-to-understand way. And one national crime website received 18 million hits in a single hour shortly after going live. So there's an incredible response to this data that's been published. Over the next 12 months, we're going to go even further and I hope catalyze even more social innovation. Our focus is going to be on public service data, giving people more choice and information about public services than ever before. Data on school and hospital performance, criminal justice data, transport, welfare, more local government data besides. I think this is a really good example of how we're trying to use technology to tackle social problems and build a strong society. And the same is true when it comes to government innovation, which is the second of my three things. Here we're trying to use new technology to open policymaking up to the wisdom of the crowd. And let me quickly give you some examples. We came to power, as many as you know, in the UK with a mandate from the public to start to tackle the budget deficit. And the traditional way to do that, the way governments have done that over decades, is for a handful of experts to lock themselves in a room and work out how best to go about reducing costs. And we took a completely different approach. We launched a website and also used Facebook to enable public sector workers to feed in their ideas about how to make cost savings based on their experience, day-to-day experience in the public service. We received over 10,000 responses and proposals in the first 24 hours alone, and we pored over the best ones and started to implement them, and then opened it out to the public at large. Within a matter of weeks, hundreds of thousands of people had taken part, and I really felt that this was a really fantastic response and riposte to the cynics who say that the public doesn't want to play a better role in policy making, that experts should be the ones that have views on things as complex as how to reduce a budget deficit. Another example of this open source approach to policy making is the public reading stage for legislation, which we launched in the UK earlier this year. This public reading stage gives people the opportunity to use an open online platform to spot drafting errors or potential implementation problems in proposed legislation before it's enacted by Parliament. Just think of it like peer-to-patent, only for new laws. We've run a pilot exercise, and from next year it's going to be applied to every single piece of legislation introduced by the British government and running through Parliament. We're also applying this logic to government regulation, where we've started publishing every single government regulation online, 22,000 regulations in total, asking people to comment on which ones are most problematic and feed in their ideas on how to redesign or redraft these regulations to make them more effective. So we want to keep pushing the envelope when it comes to using technology as a spur for government innovation. And I'm pleased to be able to say today, some of you may know already, but Beth Novak, who sadly can't be with us here, has agreed to move from New York to London to join the British government and help us drive this agenda forward. Beth literally wrote the book, it's out for sale in the foyer, Wiki Government, on how to make government more open and innovative. So we're really thrilled to have her with us in the UK. The final thing I'd like to talk about today on how we're using technology to build a stronger society is the way in which we're creating tools to enable stronger community innovation, making it easier than ever before for people to be able to come together and collaborate. In other words, I think a way of describing this is trying to build a social graph for government. In practice, let me explain what I think this might mean. When we came to office last May, there were over 700 different government websites we discovered, and not a single one contained a forum where people could talk to each other, could talk to one another. And so we're changing that. So in future, if you're filling out a form on a British government website, instead of having to call a government helpline, assuming the office hours are open, you're going to be able to ask other users for answers and help. We're also going to be using government websites to signpost people to each other, to online forums and spaces where, for example, volunteering opportunities and social ideas can be discussed. But I think this is really only the beginning. I think we're only scratching the surface of what might be achieved. Over the past 10 years in the UK, a huge amount of money has been spent on a centralised health record system that's entirely closed to the public. We're going to be overhauling that system so that individuals will be able to access their own personal health record and share it with clinicians and third parties if they so choose. As we've seen with services like Patients Like Me in America, we think this is going to enable new networks of patients and carers to emerge online and for new collaborative and analytic tools to be created. And ultimately, of course, and this is the big picture point, it's going to help patients take more control over their condition and treatment and come together in communities to discuss the issues that they face. Another example is the system of zoning in the UK. In the UK, as some of you may have the misfortune of knowing, our zoning system is incredibly centralised and, like the NHS health IT system, closed off to the public. We're turning that on its head and giving communities the power to decide on zoning laws and other development issues. But to make it as easy as possible for people to participate and neighbours to get involved, we're going to be using new online platforms, enabling people to visualise proposals for zoning changes and collaborate with their neighbours to offer up suggestions. So this is our approach. We're trying to use technology to catalyse social innovation, government innovation, and community innovation. And we're taking the power of the information revolution and putting that power in people's hands so they can use it to build a social revolution and build a stronger society. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about it today.